ever goes quite the way you planned. They also say that India gives you what you need, not what you want. I found that both of these things are very true. When I left the US, I was armed with a great plan to analyze blood tests, pore over medical textbooks, hold organized meetings every day, and conduct formal surveys while taking meticulous notes. The day I left the US, research still met my sterile bench in Fordham Hall. After a few hours in an Ayurvedic clinic in Hyderabad, I realized that things were going to have to work just a little bit differently. At first I struggled, a lot. I wanted to plot out cellular pathways, but instead I could barely ask a question, as the doctor checked dozens of people's pulses each day. Meanwhile, he doled out prescriptions such as, take 15 pills that have been dried in the moonlight for a fortnight. When I asked why these things worked, I was generally answered in stories from the Ramayana. Not quite the statistically measurable data I was hoping for. There were some days of serious frustration. But after a little while, I learned that knowledge would come less from trying to overanalyze and more from just soaking it all in. Every morning and evening, I went for long walks with the patients. I got to know not just what their T3 enzyme levels were, but also how treatments made them feel and what other things they had tried, how their condition affected their jobs and even their kids. Soon my question switched from how does Ayurveda work in the genetic code to how does religion intertwine with Ayurveda, and could Ayurveda ever be compatible with the Western lifestyle? Working in this less structured research environment allowed for me to expand my field of study. I had an amazing opportunity to go to Bangalore, where I visited an Ayurvedic clinic that incorporated acupuncture and yoga, and even had a biomedical research branch. They'd cultivated elaborate gardens with all of the herbs used in Ayurveda. After seeing the herbs being grown, I moved on to Udupi, where I toured an Ayurvedic distribution center that ships packaged herbs all over the world. There I stayed with a pundit, who's a sort of Vedic priest. He does yagyas or blessings. These blessings are both for people doing Ayurvedic treatments and for the herbs that are used in treatments. As you can see, the pundit also had a pretty cute kid. To keep up with the biomedical nature of my project back with Dr. Raju, we organized allopathic tests to measure the patient's progress, and for the most part we saw fairly amazing results. It was great to see quantitative measurements to go along with patient testimonials. For the most part we knew when treatments were working, but oftentimes the biomedical results were much better than we would have expected. Measuring the patient's health within a Western framework actually reassured them, and many of the patients plan to continue monitoring their progress after leaving the clinic. Exploring Ayurveda in such a holistic manner gave me a chance to see some really cool things, but it also forced me to look at some of the negative sides of the system. A lot of people ask me, so does it work? That's a question I still can't answer fully. Dr. Raju's clinic has seen a lot of miraculous recoveries, but it's not a 100% fix. I wanted so badly to be able to come back to the US and tell my friends with cancer and diabetes that Dr. Raju can fix them, but I can't do that. Like any medical system, Ayurveda doesn't work for every illness and every patient. There are risks with the system, like patients foregoing biomedical treatments like insulin or chemotherapy. And there are also concerns with the safety standards, since the treatments are not exactly FDA approved. In addition, it's also hard to envision how Ayurveda could ever be compatible with the Western lifestyle. Constantly, Dr. Raju was saying, don't stress, just stay in bed all day, or take these 30 pills with certain foods every 20 minutes. When you're isolated in a clinic in India, it's easy to do those things. But for the average person who works and has kids, this is close to impossible. This ideological barrier between India and somewhere like the US is daunting, but making Ayurveda more user-friendly is something that I will continue to work on in the future. It just may take me a while. Even with some disappointments, this trip has given me such a well-rounded experience of Ayurveda and people in general. Every day I learned about new diseases from myasthenia gravis to schizophrenia. And more importantly, I learned to look at the whole person, not just the statistics. While one patient was told to only eat the strict clinic food, another was told to go have pizza because the emotional stress of not really enjoying food was worsening his condition. There are different levels of optimal treatment for different people, and this is something that I think the US medical system needs to focus on more. This trip also gave me so much outside of the realms of the medical world. This trip forced me to get out of my comfort zone and ask questions, to say, hey wait, maybe we should do this a bit differently. I had to be forward and adamant about getting interviews in a culture that runs on Indian time. And I had to learn how to come up with alternatives when plan A didn't go quite the way I wanted it to. More than anything, though, this experience gave me the confidence to get out there and explore, even when it seems a bit daunting. Yeah, it's true what they say about India. I came to India with a plan, and I came back with something completely different. Something so much better and more real. My Birch Fellowship gave me the ability to roll with it and take advantage of everything India had to offer. I had the best summer of my life, and I developed strong roots for a future of exploring. I can never be thankful enough to everyone who made this trip possible.